Hello guys, welcome back to my channel in English Academy. Guys, in the last video we have discussed about a little introduction of the poet J.M. Hopkins and the introduction and theme of the poem The Sea and the Skylark. Guys, in this video we will explain one by one line of the poem. So guys, come on the topic and let's start now. On year, two noises, too old to end, trench right the tide that rams against the shore, with a flood or a fall, low lull or all roar, frequenting there while moon shall veer and wend. Guys, in the opening lines, the poet describes the sound of the sea waves rising and falling. The waves come and go, they rise and fall, with a flood or fall, low lull of or all roar, frequenting there while moon shall veer and wend. Guys, in these lines, the poet is walking by the seaside. The poet describes the scene of the sea. He said that they rise and fall. The tides are controlled by the moon. This poet is walking by the seaside and he hears two sounds coming from the opposite directions. These sounds are as old as the world itself. This sound will never cease and will last till the world lasts. These two sounds make a deep impression on the poet's ears. From the right side comes the noise of the sea, which at high tide strikes against the shore and rushes towards the ramps of the protective sea wall. With each wave, the water floods the seashore and then resheds. And this process continues. When the sea waves retreat, there is a lull. The noise stops for a while, but when the tide returns again, the sea roars like a lion. This process of sea waves striking against the seashore and then receding, striking again and receding will continue as long as the moon continues to wane and wax because the tides are controlled by the moon. Next stanza. Left hand of land, I hear the lark ascend, his rush fresh, rewinded, new skinned score, in creeps of cull of wild winds rill and pure, and pelt music till none's to spill nor spend. Guys, in these lines, the poet tells us about the song of the skylark. He says that from his left hand, some distance away from the seashore, comes the sound of the skylark singing as he leaves the earth and flies up into the sky. The skylark, the skylark's songs is ever the same. It seems to follow a musical score which may be compared to a skein of wool that is successively unwound and rebound so that each song is as fresh as the one before. This score, the skylark seems to wail off the pinch of his throat in a wild ecstasy, not in a smooth or even flow, but as it were in crisp skulls of melody. Every note of this melody may be compared to a lock of fleece waving in the air. The skylark pours out music without effort, and yet he belts his fresh song till he has split and spent all, and there is nothing left. The skylark goes up so high and away that the music is heard no more. Next stanza. How these two shame this swallow, sorry, how these two shame this shallow and frail town, how ring right out our short turbid time, being pure we life's pride and cared for crown, have lost that cheer and charm of earth's past prime. Guys, in these lines, the poet describes in these lines, the poet contrasts the elemental purity with the shallow and frail town with its sordid, turbid, turbid look and atmosphere. The town referred to Israel. The town is referred to Israel. This town was a summer resort to which English people thronged from May onward. But during the off season, the town appeared to be a ghost town. The poet says that the town sounds of the sea and the skylark are putting Ryle to shame. The voices emanating from nature rise far above the sordid and confused human sounds. It is so because the voices from the objects of nature are pure. The town is shallow and pale, and the human sounds of the town are sordid and confused. The poet says that we are the human beings, are the pride of creations and the crown of all beings in the world. Even God cares for the human beings, yet we have lost that cheer and charm, the state of joy because of the sinfulness and selfishness of our industrial civilizations. We have lost the state of innocence and happiness which men enjoyed in ancient times. Last lines of the poem. Our make and making break are breaking down to man's last dust, drain fast towards man's first slime. While walking near the sea, guys, you know that while walking near the sea, the poet heard two sounds which make a deep impression on him. Out his right is the sea, and he hears the sound of the waves rising and falling. On the poet's left, above the land, he hears the lark, which sings as it ascends until it is just visible as a speck against the sky. In contrast to these sounds of purity and innocence is the shallow and frail seaside town, a product of sordid, disorderly generation. Guys, in the last two lines, the poet says that man was created last as life's crown, God's special care, but to the poet, both man as species seems to be crumbling back to the dust. Sorry, the, at the last of two lines, the poet says that man was created last as life's crown, God's special care, but to the poet, both man as species and his products seem to be crumbling back to dust. The poet says that we are gradually being reduced to the featureless materials out of which we have been made. It was out of dust or slime that man was originally made, and to dust we shall ultimately return. We are just losing our constructive energy rapidly and are moving fast to our doom, to our original state of slime. Thanks so much, guys.